your kidneys can lose a surprising amount of function before you ever feel that something is wrong. That is one of the most dangerous things about kidney decline. Unlike pain in your back or chest, your kidneys usually do not send dramatic warning signals when they begin struggling. They simply keep working, just a little less efficiently each month, each year, often without obvious symptoms until meaningful damage has already developed. That is why so many people are shocked when routine blood work suddenly shows declining kidney function. By the time many people realize there is a problem, the process has often been building quietly in the background for years. What makes this even more concerning is that many people who want to support their kidneys focus on the wrong things entirely. They buy detox teas, they drink gallons of water, they take trendy supplements, they search for miracle cleanses. But one of the most overlooked kidney-supporting foods is something far simpler, something many people walk past in the grocery store without ever realizing how powerful it can be, for protecting the tiny filtration structures inside the kidneys. And the reason it matters has far less to do with hype than with biology. I'm Dr. Marcus Evans, medical doctor and physician, and on this channel we break down health topics in a practical, evidence-based way, so you can better understand what may be happening inside your body, and make smarter daily decisions for your long-term health. If that sounds useful to you, consider subscribing. But for now, let's get into what your kidneys are quietly dealing with every single day. Most people know the kidneys filter waste, but that description barely captures how much they actually do. Your kidneys filter your blood around the clock. They regulate fluid balance, they help control blood pressure, they manage electrolytes like sodium and potassium. They also play a crucial role by activating vitamin D. They help signal your body to make red blood cells. And perhaps most importantly, they maintain the delicate internal chemistry your entire body depends on to function. In other words, your kidneys are not just filters, they are regulators, controllers, balancers, quiet managers of dozens of systems working in the background every moment you are alive. And yet, despite how vital they are, kidney damage often develops so silently that many people do not notice a problem until subtle signs begin appearing, signs they often dismiss as something else. They feel more tired than usual. Their ankles swell slightly by evening. They begin waking more often at night to urinate. Their blood pressure slowly rises. Their urine looks foamier than before. Their recovery from meals or physical exertion seems worse. None of these symptoms scream kidney problem to the average person, so they get ignored, or blamed on age, or blamed on stress, or blamed on poor sleep. But inside the body, the kidneys may already be under increasing strain. And this strain does not usually happen all at once. It happens gradually, quietly, relentlessly. Because kidney decline is often the result of years of repeated microscopic damage to the kidney's filtration units, tiny structures called glomeruli. You can think of these as microscopic filtration nets. Each kidney contains roughly 1 million of them. Their job is to filter waste while keeping the important components of your blood where they belong. But those filtration structures are delicate. They are highly vascular. They rely on healthy blood flow, they are vulnerable to inflammation, and once they begin taking repeated damage, they do not simply bounce back the way many people assume. This is where people misunderstand kidney health. They think supporting kidney function means doing something dramatic. A cleanse, a detox, a temporary reset. But in reality, kidney health is often determined by what happens at the microscopic level day after day after day. The foods you eat, your blood sugar stability, your blood pressure patterns, your inflammatory load, the health of your blood vessels, your hydration habits. The cumulative effect of all of those factors determines whether those tiny filtration structures remain resilient or slowly deteriorate. And this is where the overlooked food we are going to discuss later becomes so important. Because its benefit is not that it flushes the kidneys. That is not how real kidney support works. Its value comes from helping reduce some of the biological stressors that quietly damage kidney tissue over time. And that distinction matters, because the people who preserve kidney function longest are usually not the ones chasing miracle solutions. They are the ones reducing chronic damage consistently. Now here's what makes this even more relevant. Kidney decline often begins long before standard symptoms appear. In fact, many people can lose a substantial portion of kidney function before noticing anything dramatic at all. That means if you wait for obvious warning signs, you may be waiting too long. And that is why prevention matters so much more than reaction. The earlier you reduce the forces damaging the kidneys, the better your odds of preserving function long term. But to understand why one specific snack may help support that process, you first need to understand what is actually damaging kidney function in the first place. Because it is not just too much salt, and it is not just dehydration. The real drivers run deeper than most people realize. And once you understand them, the logic behind this overlooked food starts to make far more sense. When people think about kidney damage, they often imagine something sudden. A severe illness, a medication reaction, a major medical emergency. And while those things can absolutely harm the kidneys, the far more common reality is slower than that. Much slower. For many adults, kidney decline is not caused by one dramatic event. It is caused by years of repeated low-grade damage that slowly wears down the kidney's filtration system until those delicate structures begin losing efficiency. And one of the biggest misconceptions is that this process is only about salt. Yes, excessive sodium can contribute, especially by worsening blood pressure, but focusing only on salt misses the much larger picture. Because kidney decline is usually driven by a combination of metabolic and vascular stressors working together over time. The first is chronic inflammation. Inflammation is your body's defense system. In the short term, it protects you. But when inflammation remains elevated for months or years, often due to poor diet, excess body fat, blood sugar instability, smoking, or chronic stress, it stops being protective and starts becoming destructive. That chronic inflammatory environment can damage blood vessels throughout the body. And the kidneys, because they are packed with tiny blood vessels and filtration structures, are especially vulnerable. Then there is oxidative stress. This occurs when unstable molecules called free radicals begin damaging cells faster than the body can neutralize them. Think of it like biological rust. A little is normal. Too much over time accelerates tissue wear and dysfunction. Kidney tissue is highly metabolically active, meaning it is particularly sensitive to oxidative damage. But that is only part of the problem. Blood sugar instability also plays a major role. Even in people who are not diabetic, repeated blood sugar spikes can create damage. Every time glucose rises sharply, your body experiences a temporary surge in oxidative stress and inflammatory signaling. When this happens over and over again, day after day, meal after meal, it contributes to vascular injury. And because your kidneys filter enormous volumes of blood every day, they are exposed constantly to that metabolic environment. This is one reason kidney decline is so strongly associated with insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. But you do not need full diabetes for damage to begin. Years of borderline high blood sugar can still create cumulative harm. Then comes blood pressure. Your kidneys rely on carefully regulated blood flow to function properly. Too much pressure inside those tiny filtration structures gradually damages them, almost like running water through a filter at too high a force for too long. Eventually, those filtration membranes begin thickening, scarring, and leaking. That is when kidney function starts declining more noticeably. And here is where many people unknowingly make things worse. They snack all day on foods marketed as healthy that quietly fuel these exact processes. Granola bars loaded with syrup, low-fat crackers made from refined starches, flavored yogurts packed with sugar, fruit snacks sold as natural, protein bars that are essentially candy in disguise. Even many heart-healthy packaged snacks create rapid blood sugar spikes, increase inflammatory burden, and provide almost none of the compounds that help protect vascular tissue. So while people think they are making smart choices, they may be feeding the very metabolic patterns that quietly accelerate kidney stress. This is why kidney supportive nutrition is not just about what you remove. It is also about what you replace it with. Because if you want to support kidney function over time, the ideal food should do more than simply avoid harm. It should actively help counter the mechanisms driving damage. That means the best kidney supportive foods often share several important traits. They help stabilize blood sugar rather than spike it. They reduce inflammatory signaling rather than increase it. They support blood vessel health rather than impair it. They provide antioxidants that help neutralize oxidative stress. And ideally, they do all of that in a form people can actually eat consistently. Because consistency matters more than perfection. A powerful food you eat regularly will outperform a superfood you use once a month and forget about. And this brings us directly to the snack most people overlook. Because despite how simple it is, it checks nearly every box we just discussed. It supports blood sugar control. It provides compounds linked to lower inflammation. It helps protect blood vessels. And perhaps most importantly, it creates a metabolic environment that is less hostile to the kidneys over time. But what makes it particularly interesting is that its benefit is not obvious at first glance. Most people do not look at it and think kidney supporting food. They think of it as just another snack, a healthy one perhaps, but nothing special. And that is exactly why so many people miss its value. Because the most effective foods for long-term organ protection are often not flashy. They are not marketed as miracle cures. They do not come in expensive supplement bottles. They simply work quietly in the background when used consistently. And the one we are about to discuss may be one of the best examples of that. Because once you understand what is inside it and what those compounds do biologically, you start to see why many kidney-conscious nutrition experts keep returning to it. And why this simple snack may deserve far more attention than it gets. The snack many kidney-conscious clinicians and nutrition experts repeatedly come back to is surprisingly simple. Walnuts. Not because they are trendy. Not because they are some exotic superfood imported from across the world. And not because walnuts magically repair damaged kidneys overnight. They do not. No food does. But when it comes to supporting the biological conditions that help preserve kidney function over time, walnuts stand out for several reasons. First, they are one of the richest common food sources of alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA, and omega-3 fatty acid linked to reduced inflammation and improved vascular health. That matters because your kidneys are deeply dependent on healthy blood flow. Every minute, they receive a large share of your body's circulating blood supply. Their filtration units cannot function properly if the tiny vessels feeding them become inflamed, stiff, or damaged. So when you improve vascular health, you are not just helping your heart. You are helping the kidneys maintain the blood flow and pressure balance they need to filter effectively. But walnuts offer more than healthy fats. They are also rich in polyphenols and antioxidants, natural compounds that help reduce oxidative stress. And remember, oxidative stress is one of the forces that slowly damages kidney tissue over time. It is the biological equivalent of wear and tear accumulating beneath the surface. You may not feel it in the moment, but year after year, it matters. Walnuts also appear to support healthier blood sugar responses when used correctly. Because despite being calorie dense, they are low in digestible carbohydrates and contain fat, fiber, and plant compounds that slow digestion and reduce glucose spikes when eaten in place of refined snacks. That means swapping a sugary snack for walnuts does not just remove a harmful food, it changes the metabolic response afterward. Lower glucose spikes, lower insulin swings, less inflammatory stress, less vascular strain, and over time, that creates a healthier internal environment for the kidneys. There is also growing evidence linking regular nut consumption with improved cardiometabolic health overall, including factors strongly tied to kidney outcomes such as blood pressure, insulin sensitivity, and systemic inflammation. Now, to be clear, this does not mean walnuts are a cure for kidney disease, and it does not mean eating a handful of walnuts will suddenly restore failing kidneys. That would be misleading. The real value is subtler and more realistic. Walnuts may help support kidney function by reducing the chronic biological stressors that contribute to kidney decline in the first place. In other words, they help create a body environment in which the kidneys face less daily damage. And that is how real long-term organ support usually works. Quietly, gradually, systemically. Not through dramatic overnight changes, but through consistent reduction of the forces causing deterioration. Now, here's another important point many people miss. The benefit of walnuts is not just about what they add. It is also about what they replace. Because if walnuts replace chips, crackers, cookies, pastries, sugary health bars, refined carb snacks, then the benefit becomes even greater. You are gaining protective compounds while simultaneously removing foods that worsen metabolic stress. That is a powerful combination. But to get the most benefit, portion and preparation matter. Because walnuts are nutrient dense. That is part of why they are effective. But it also means moderation matters. For most adults, a practical serving is around a small handful per day, roughly 1 ounce, or about 7 whole walnuts. That amount is enough to provide meaningful nutritional benefit without turning a healthy snack into excessive calorie intake. Unsalted is generally best. Heavily salted nuts can work against blood pressure goals, especially in people already dealing with hypertension. Raw or dry roasted are both reasonable options. The key is avoiding versions coated in sugar, honey, candy, chocolate, or flavored powders that transform the snack into something metabolically very different. Timing can matter as well. Many people benefit most when walnuts replace a blood sugar disrupting afternoon or evening snack. That substitution may reduce glucose swings later in the day and improve satiety, making overeating less likely. And this is where the story becomes even more interesting. Because despite walnuts being highly beneficial, many people accidentally cancel much of that benefit through simple mistakes in how they use them. They overeat them. They pair them with the wrong foods. They buy versions loaded with added ingredients. Or they assume more must be better. And that is where people can unintentionally turn a protective habit into a less effective one. Because with nutrient-dense foods, how you use them matters just as much as whether you use them at all. Knowing that walnuts can support kidney-friendly metabolic and vascular health is useful. But knowing how to use them correctly is what determines whether they actually help. Because one of the biggest mistakes people make with healthy foods is assuming that if something is beneficial, then more must automatically be better. That is not how nutrition works. And with walnuts in particular, overdoing them can quietly reduce the advantage they offer. The first common mistake is simply eating too many. Walnuts are nutrient-dense for a reason. They contain healthy fats, fiber, minerals, and protective plant compounds, but they are also calorie-dense. A few handfuls while watching television can quickly turn into several hundred extra calories without much awareness. Over time, that can contribute to unwanted weight gain. And since excess body fat itself increases inflammation, insulin resistance, and blood pressure, overeating even healthy foods can work against the very kidney supportive goals you are trying to achieve. That is why moderation matters. For most people, sticking to around 1 measured handful per day is a smart target, enough to gain the benefits. Not so much that it becomes excessive. The second mistake is buying the wrong type. Many packaged nut products are marketed as healthy while being heavily altered, honey roasted, sugar glass, candied, chocolate covered, artificially flavored, or loaded with sodium. At that point, you are no longer getting the same metabolic effect. You are pairing a beneficial food with ingredients that can undermine blood sugar control, blood pressure, or calorie balance. If your goal is kidney support, simple is better. Plain, unsalted, minimal ingredients. The third mistake is pairing walnuts with foods that erase much of the advantage. For example, adding walnuts on top of sugary cereal, eating them alongside pastries, mixing them into sweetened yogurt loaded with added sugar, putting them in desserts and assuming the walnuts make the entire food healthy. That misses the point. Walnuts help most when they improve the overall metabolic profile of the meal or snack. They should replace harmful foods, not merely sit beside them. Another overlooked issue is unrealistic expectations. Some people hear that a food supports kidney health and expect dramatic changes within days. That is not realistic. Kidney supportive nutrition is not like taking a painkiller and feeling immediate relief. It is more like improving the conditions in which your kidneys operate. The benefit builds slowly, quietly, over weeks and months of consistent habits. That does not make it less powerful. It makes it more realistic, because the body responds to repeated patterns more than isolated efforts. Now, one important medical caution: people with advanced kidney disease should not assume every healthy food is automatically appropriate in unlimited amounts. Depending on the stage of kidney impairment, some individuals may need to monitor potassium, phosphorus, protein, or overall mineral intake more carefully. That does not mean walnuts are universally unsafe. It simply means advanced kidney disease requires individualized medical guidance. Nutrition becomes more specific as kidney function declines. So if someone has been formally diagnosed with moderate to advanced chronic kidney disease, dietary decisions should be reviewed with their physician or renal dietitian. For everyone else, however, walnuts can be an excellent part of a kidney supportive routine when used intelligently. And that is the real takeaway here. Kidney decline rarely happens because of one catastrophic mistake. It usually happens because of repeated daily patterns that slowly move the body in the wrong direction. Likewise, preserving kidney function is rarely about one miracle intervention. It is about consistently reducing the forces that wear the kidneys down, lowering inflammation, improving blood sugar stability, supporting blood vessels, managing blood pressure, choosing foods that work with your biology rather than against it. Walnuts happen to be one of the simplest examples of that principle. A small daily choice, quiet, unremarkable, easy to overlook, yet potentially meaningful over time when used consistently, because sometimes the habits that protect your health the most are not dramatic. They are the ones you repeat often enough that the body has time to respond. So if you have been looking for some exotic kidney detox or miracle cleanse, the truth may be much less exciting but far more useful. Real kidney support often looks like simple, intelligent habits practiced consistently. And sometimes it starts with something as ordinary as replacing the wrong snack with the right one. If you found this helpful and want more evidence-based health breakdowns explained clearly and practically, make sure to subscribe. And if you're interested in the daily habits that silently damage kidney function, even when blood work still looks normal, you'll want to watch the next video, because that is where many people are making mistakes without realizing it.